Edwin Valero is a boxer of vicious talent, violent turmoil, and tragic mystery. There are many myths around his past, in and outside of the ring, from legendary sparring sessions to the combustion of drug abuse, street violence, and political pardons that led to a confirmed case of murder and suicide. Here is the tale of Edwin Valero, the darkest story in boxing. But before we get started, subscribe below. Thanks. Born in Venezuela during the 1980s, Valero had a rough childhood, which sometimes echoed that of Panama's great Roberto Duran. As a youth, Valero was known to engage in violence, theft, and have frequent run-ins with the law. Like many troubled youngsters, Valero found boxing as a saving grace, but in the end, even his love for the sport couldn't save him from himself. After a spectacular amateur career, Valero was looking to turn pro and climb the ranks of the boxing elite, but just before he did, tragedy struck. Valero, not wearing a helmet, was involved in a motorcycle accident that left him with serious injuries. His head was fractured, and doctors had to perform surgery to remove blood clots from his skull. Valero was warned by medical professionals that he should not return to boxing, but being a mean kid from the streets, Valero may have seen boxing as his only option, so he elected to continue fighting in the ring. There was one problem. As much as he tried, he couldn't get the medical clearance to fight in the US, where the best promoters, money, and talent lie. But Valero didn't sit around and wait for opportunity. He began to fight in South America right away. In his first pro fight, you can see the scar on his head from the surgery, but that didn't matter. Valero was a knockout machine, earning a striking first-round KO. It would be the first of many. Through a string of first-round KOs, Valero grew frustrated in his competition and longed to face the cream of the crop. But every time Valero tried to get sanctioned in the US, he was denied. His frustration increased, and whispers of his violent nature began to spread throughout the boxing community.
Trabajo para ganarme la afición americana, mexicana y del mundo.
Then Valero got another chance to fight in America in a way we'd least expect. With his reputation as a knockout artist, trainers in the US became interested in Valero, and Valero was called to spar with many star boxers of the early 2000s, including Manny Pacquiao and Erik Morales, who were rivals at the time.
I can see his ability, I can see the power, I can see the killer instinct that he possessed. So when I mentioned that to you, I said, David, you've got to look at this young man. There was no doubt in my mind that there was not natural talent, but raw talent in this youngster.
Though Valero's sessions at Roach and Pac-Man's wildcard camp were kept under wraps, his sessions against Morales were recorded, and soon after, those sessions were talked about in boxing circles across the world. Many knew that Valero never took it easy on his opponents, but against Morales, one of the world's best, Valero was vicious. Valero broke Morales' nose and knocked him out. Not many can do that to a seasoned pro, especially when you add headgear and 16-ounce gloves in the mix.
He had already knocked out other guys, so...
In sparring?
Yeah, all the time.
With word of his classic sparring session spreading, Valero's legend only grew. More began tuning into this one-man knockout show, and for good reason. Of Valero's first 18 fights, he won by knockout in the first round. In his 19th fight for the WBA Super Featherweight Championship, Valero was knocked down for the first time, but responded by showing stamina and skill, winning by way of TKO in round 10. The 24-year-old boxer was finally a world champion, and he defended his title 4 times, ending his run at Super Featherweight in Japan with a 7th round TKO.
The fans in Japan loved him.
Then finally in 2008, after signing with Golden Boy Promotions and thanks to some magic work by superstar promoter Bob Arum, Valero's MRI scans were forgotten. And he was finally able to fight in the United States, where he continued to knock out his opponents. Of his 27 fights, Valero won every single one by way of knockout, whether it were TKO or KO stoppage.
If we needed a superstar in the lightweight division, I think we just got one. Absolutely.
To the people of Venezuela, Valero was seen as a rags-to-riches hero. He was even friends and patron to then-President Hugo Chavez. But even with the president's guidance, Valero couldn't seem to control his temper. Rumors of his abuse towards his family, wife, mother, and sister began to rise. There were talks of his drug use, his drunken brawls outside the ring, and his extreme jealousy toward his wife. Valero was arrested in 2009 on assault charges against his mother and sister, but his mother came to the media and denied the allegations. In 2010, Valero was accused of abusing his wife. He denied the allegations, claiming that his wife fell down some stairs. At the hospital, he acted vicious toward the staff, and for doing so, he was sentenced to 6 months of psychiatric rehab. Just over a month later, things escalated to the point of no return. And on April 18, 2010, at a hotel in Valencia, Venezuela, Edwin walked into the lobby and admitted to killing his wife. Jennifer Carolina Vieira de Valero was found dead in her hotel room. She had been stabbed 24 times and was only 20 years old. Days after, Valero hung himself in his jail cell and was pronounced dead by way of suicide.
Valero allegedly had told hotel security personnel that he'd committed the crime. The police official said that Valero used his own clothes to himself in his jail cell early this morning.
After his death, those around Valero were less hesitant to speak out against his violent ways, claiming they were deathly afraid of him.
Well, here he is drunk driving and getting angry and hitting people in the dressing room. You saw signs. He needed some kind of professional help.
There were rumors circulating that it wasn't suicide and he had in fact been murdered.
According to him, he didn't do it. They killed him.
In the media, some attributed Valero's actions to a chemical imbalance in his brain, claiming he never should have been allowed to box after his motorcycle accident. Some say it was because of Valero's troubled youth, and others argue it was because of him growing accustomed to violence due to the pardons he received for his celebrity status, as half of Venezuela still perceived him as an idol, even with his wrongdoings. But maybe he was fueled by fury, his hunger to be recognized as a boxing great, and his frustration toward the medical circumstances that prevented him from competing at an elite level. Whether it was the chemical imbalance in his brain or the growing popularity that made him feel untouchable, no one will ever know. It's all just speculation. The sad and undeniable truth is, Edwin Valero was a violent man who brought pain and destruction to those around him, including mostly his wife's family. In the end, boxing did not save Edwin Valero, and his story goes to show that sometimes the sport of boxing isn't enough. Yes, it can change lives, provide opportunity, and challenge athletes to become better human beings, but it is up to these athletes to carry discipline and honor outside the ring and inspire others to live better lives.